Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi LiveNoding. In this episode, I want to show you a bit of fun little setup, basically using Blender cloth simulations. And I'm also using animation nodes in the background that's simply kind of pumping air in and out of the box. So as a result, you have this box that's kind of like breathing and alive. Um, Again, if I'm gonna give you the basic idea how I set it up. So currently we have a couple of modifier working, just the cloth and subdivision. Subdivision, if I turn off subdivision, is simply just very low res kind of cube, and this subdivision just to give the roundness, and then the cloth itself actually have some kind of pinning, and the original mesh is simply subdivided cube, and I actually have this bunch of points that's pinned for the cloth. The way I select this very quickly, the way I assign the weighting is to simply select one of the edges that's really sharp, and then I select similar face angles. So that's selecting all the edge of the cube, and I simply go back to the vertices and assign 100% or one weight of 1 for those vertices. Okay, so those become the pin for the cloth. Since the box itself is actually really low res, so if I jump into the cloth and then run the simulations, within 150 frames, this is actually real time. You can think of it like, yeah, almost like real time because it's low res. So what's actually going on here is I have this pressure setting of the cloth with the vector is being influenced by animation nodes. It simply goes up and down using a sine wave. Okay. So this is the value that's actually being pumped out in and out from animation nodes. If the value goes to negative, it doesn't matter because this factor kind of clamp it, so it goes to 0 and didn't go down. I have a little bit of shrinking vector here, and that's actually give a more interesting result. Okay, so yeah, this is just a very basic example. Animation nodes is doing the job. So the frame, the math, if I increase the number, it's gonna breathe faster, so in and out faster. So now the box is kind of like nervous, and yeah, same thing with this. I can actually pump more, so I can go higher than 1, so it's breathing more air. So the way it works is simply I just right click here and then copy the data path and paste it into object attribute output, and I need to simply point the objects, which is called alpha.000. So the pressure factor is what's doing the job. What's interesting, however, is that with this setup, you can actually just go in and maybe reshape the box. And in my case, I actually did something like this. I make a face out of this box and simply cut it. I was curious, right, whether it's gonna work or not. So now go back to object mode, and it is actually working, and it's making the characters almost like a kind of like sleeping or snoring. And this, if you like, you can add a solidify, of course, give some kind of thickness before the subdivision. So now you have this kind of character. And if you like, of course, you can go back, select this and kind of reshape it, and then make the characters kind of sleeping. I make the eyes slightly smaller on the other one, give a bit of character, and maybe smiley face. Maybe he's like having a nice dream. Okay, so that's the default. And yeah, now the character is kind of like sleeping and snoring. It's breathing. It's an interesting example actually. You might notice that the clothes itself have some kind of pattern, and on top of this, if you really like, you can go to the cloth setting and then play around with it. For example, you will actually learn more about cloth this way. You can change it into different material. So I try cotton, silk, try rubber. So rubber is really good. It feels rubbery. Leather is a bit harder, so it doesn't expand much. Denim even stronger. Cotton basically pretty light. So cotton is also quite nice. And then on top of that, you play around with the things like the internal spring and pressure. These two matters a lot. And the pressure, for example, if I reduce it really low, so it's like it's almost didn't do much. If I go make it really high, like 250, 240 of, oh yeah, 250, or even custom volume. I haven't tested this out. It's becoming a different character. What I found interesting is this max spring creation length. You see how it's becoming more subtle? If I make it really low, sometimes it's gonna explode. So it's almost like a Kirby, this character. And the tension and compression, these two are also quite interesting. If I reduce the tension, like zero tension, character is simply just gonna be it's gonna go between cube and sphere. Sort of. If I add tension, however, you will start to see some kind of a noise pattern around the character. Let's make this see the tension. But tension also influenced by max tension and compression. Don't know how to explain these two because they're kind of influencing each other. It's almost like if you're doing fluid simulations, changing a parameter, and then you have to bake it again and again. With simulations, normally you have kind of like a lot of different results. Oh, let me actually save this properly. And in the past, with all kind of simulations, you need to actually bake it and wait overnight to get a result. But these days, you get a faster result and almost real time. So it's really cool. Oh, by the way, the shrinking factor actually have influence as well. So you see, if I go minus, the character is almost like kind of shrinking. This really add a bit of character actually. If you want to change to give it a bit of characteristic each time it's expanding and shrinking, you can play around with the shrinking factor. See the character giving that look, and then if I go a bit lower, it's giving different looks. So that's actually really cool idea. On top of this, if you really want, you can select a bunch of box here. Would be nice to make it rounded. Yeah, I think perhaps you can kind of smooth it. Oh, maybe expand it a little and then smooth it. Yeah, same thing. Select bunch of face, extrude, and smooth it. Make it about the same length. And now the character is almost like curvy, so it's quite interesting. Collision, I actually have self collision enabled. If I turn it off, it's actually faster, but sometimes it's overlapping. So turn on self collisions. So the pin group, if I turn off pin group, is simply gonna fall, or actually it disappear because of the pressure of the air. Okay, that's interesting. Shrinking factor, sewing. I didn't use sewing. Dynamic mesh, maybe with dynamic mesh you get mesh that's even more natural. Object collisions, all right, it's gonna collide with other objects. We can try that. Yeah, but you get the idea. So just this simple setup make the character that's kind of breathing in and breathing out, and that's actually sometimes that's a can be enough for whatever you are doing. But yeah, hopefully you find this interesting. Let me know what you created with this idea. Let me know again if you have any question. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.